So what if I told you that a single product launch could set off a chain reaction that completely reshapes our cities, our homes, and even how we think about travel itself? Today, we're breaking down how the arrival of the Cybercab could be that exact moment. Let's dive in. Okay, get this, April 2026. You're going to want to circle that date on your calendar because, according to the sources we're looking at, this could be for transportation what the first iPhone was for communication. It's the projected start for mass production of the Tesla Cybercab, and it might just be the beginning of a whole new era. And this quote right here, it just nails it. We're not just talking about a new car, not even close. It's being framed as the first domino to fall in a massive reinvention of, well, pretty much everything. How we live, how we travel, you name it. All right, so let's start with the most personal thing, right? The actual experience of getting from point A to point B. Because that's the first thing that's going to get completely flipped on its head. The simple act of travel is about to be redefined. You know the feeling, right? You jump in a rideshare, maybe there's some awkward small talk, or you need to make a private call but you just can't, all while paying a premium. The whole idea behind the Cybercab is to just erase all of that. Suddenly it's your own private bubble, a driverless space where you can do whatever you want. And here's the real kicker, the cost. I mean, we're talking about projections that put a ride at about half the price of a regular taxi. We're talking bus fare affordable. So you get this first-class, totally private experience for an economy price. That's a game changer. And this is where you see the real magic happen. All that time you spend traveling, it's not wasted time anymore. Suddenly, it's productive time, right? You can have that confidential video conference, or it's you time. Catch up on a show, take a nap, whatever. The point is, that time becomes yours again. So here's the big shift in thinking. The car isn't a tool you operate anymore. It becomes a space you just inhabit. It's basically a moving room, or a moving office that you just summon with your phone. Now, obviously, for this whole seamless vision to work, there are some massive hurdles to clear first. Think regulations, public trust. It's a big deal. Okay, so once you change something as fundamental as personal travel, you get these huge ripple effects. And the next big one? It completely changes the math on where we all decide to live. And that brings us to what's being called the Great Real Estate Shift. I mean, think about it. Why is property in the city center so insanely expensive? It really boils down to one thing, doesn't it? The commute. For more than a century, people have paid a fortune just to avoid spending hours of their days stuck in traffic, stressed out, and getting nothing done. But what happens when the commute isn't a bad thing anymore? What if that time is actually productive or even relaxing? All of a sudden, that whole reason for paying a premium to live downtown, it just starts to melt away. And if that happens, the whole housing market could flip. The thinking is, why would you live in a tiny, overpriced apartment just to be near the office? You could get a much bigger, nicer place further out. Now, of course, this whole idea rests on a couple of big ifs. Like, will people really be okay with longer travel times? And are the suburbs even ready for that kind of growth? And this ripple effect, it's not just about money and real estate. It physically changes the way our cities look. And the biggest, most obvious change? The potential disappearance of the parking lot. Seriously. This right here, this is just wild. It shows how unbelievably inefficient our current system is. The average car, it's parked 95% of the time. Let that sink in. We've built our cities around these things that just sit there, doing nothing for 23 hours a day, taking up all this prime real estate. And this is what we get. I mean, it's the biggest waste of space in our cities, hands down. We've literally paved over huge chunks of valuable land, not for people or parks, but just to store metal boxes. So the idea is that a fleet of these cybercabs would be constantly moving, right? They're way, way more efficient. The projections are pretty staggering. A city could potentially run on just 20% of the cars it has today. That's an 80% drop. Can you even imagine what that would do for traffic? The logic that follows is actually pretty straightforward. You get this shared fleet, so fewer people need their own car. And if you don't need cars, you don't need to park them. All that land, parking lots, garages, it suddenly becomes a blank canvas for the city. Now, we have to acknowledge, this beautiful vision also comes with some really tough questions, especially about what happens to the millions of people who drive for a living today. So you take all of this, the new way of travel, the real estate shift, the reclaimed land, and it all leads to this incredible final outcome, the potential for a totally new kind of city, a whole new way of living in an urban space. And when you put it side by side like this, the transformation is just stark. You go from gasoline to electric, from the constant noise of traffic to quiet, from exhaust fumes to clean air, and the landscape itself changes from roads and parking lots to parks and walkways. Just try to picture a day in a city like this. You're downtown, and the air is actually cleaner than out in the country. Old road lanes are now these wide paths for walking and biking, and the loudest thing you hear isn't an engine, it's nature. It's an amazing picture to paint for sure, but it's also one that would require a truly massive investment in new infrastructure to make it a reality. It really is a powerful idea. Instead of breathing in fumes, we'd be breathing in phytocytes. You know, those amazing healthy compounds that trees give off. That's the promise right there. And maybe the most mind-blowing part of this whole thing is the timeline. This isn't being talked about like some sci-fi 50 years from now dream. According to the source material, this is the near future. The first domino could fall as early as 2026. So that leaves us with this really big question to chew on. If this revolution really does solve transportation, one of our oldest and biggest problems, what's next? You solve one problem, you unlock all this human potential, all these resources. It kind of makes you wonder, once that's taken care of, what problem should humanity tackle next?